These card readings are for your entertainment and are laced with my personal opinions and perspectives. I'm not qualified to offer medical or legal advice. Seek professionals for legal, mental, or physical health needs, and know that while cards can give you major insights, ultimately, your moves are yours to make. Hello, and welcome to the Get Read podcast, the show where you ask a question of the cards and you get read. I'm Amanda, I'm your reader, and we are on the verge of an Aquarius full moon this week. And I've got the Aquarian Tarot here to help us answer some questions. So without a bunch of gabbing, let's just get right into it. First question.
Hi, Amanda. Over the last month or so, the image of a deer has been a recurring synchronicity in my life. From tarot and oracle card pulls to real life encounters to it just kind of randomly showing up in meditations for me. It's reappeared many times at this point, and I'm a little confused as to its meaning for me at this time, since it's not really an animal I've been particularly drawn to or have identified with in the past, and I'm wondering if the cards have anything to say about it. So yeah, thank you, and happy full moon.
Oh, good. Okay, I like this. The deer image, animal, mythology definitely came to me in college really, really strongly. And I spent a few years where I feel like I was just like being hounded by deer. Seeing them everywhere, encountering them, experiencing them to new levels and new meaning, and it was really cool. So let's see what it means for you. I know I just said that we're going to use the Aquarian Tarot in this podcast, but for this question in particular, I really felt drawn to use the Illuminated Earth Oracle, this deck here. And as I was pre-shuffling it, preparing for this podcast, the card I think that we needed to see from that deck already came out. And it's this card here. I'll describe it for those of you not watching the video cast. It says responsibility, and it is a very stoic, stately person holding a baby deer, a fawn, on a leash. And the person is wearing a hat with antlers on it. So there's this sense that the person is assuming responsibility for the fawn and is like putting on the hat of the caregiver, the parent, the responsible one in the relationship or in the dynamic. It doesn't have to speak to a relationship necessarily, specifically. I also think it's interesting that the card is clearly winter. There's pine cones covered in ice, or rather pine branches covered in ice in the background, with like Christmas decorations, stars, star ornaments hanging from the pines. So this very strong sense of responsibility could be why the deer are coming your way. Let's, do we want to clarify with the Aquarian? We do. Let's go to the Aquarian Tarot and see specifically what the Aquarius full moon might have to say about that, especially with Saturn in Aquarius. And now we have the responsibility card, which is typically a card that that term responsibility is associated really strongly with Saturn's energy. Okay, Two of Cups on the bottom of the deck. So maybe this does have to do with relationships for you. Close, intimate, personal relationships. How are dynamics of like caretaking and responsibility coming into play in your relationships? That's interesting. Let's pull. Why is the deer visiting this person? Our caller. 9 of Wands. Are you tired? Are you holding too much responsibility? Or is there something off in a relational dynamic where, King of Swords, interesting. I'm gonna try to show you what I have here. We have the responsibility card, that antlered person holding the reins on the baby fawn. And then underneath of it, we have the King of Swords, the strong king holding the blade, looking over at the 9 of Wands, which looks like maybe like a lesser soldier or something like that, who is battle worn, a bit tired. And then both of those are looking over at the 2 of Cups. So what's going on here? The King of Swords can talk about truth-telling and saying things very directly and clearly, obviously from a place of love and compassion and kindness, but not mincing words about it, being very direct, very commanding in their language. And so the King of Swords into the 9 of Wands is really talking to me about, it's almost like the King of Wands is pressing whoever is under the influence of the 9 of Wands, which is someone who might be burning the candle at both ends, someone who is assuming a lot of work, responsibility, is maybe just expending a lot of energy. It's almost like the king is like, if those of you watching the video cast, the fist, the king's fist that's holding the sword almost looks to me like they're prodding the person in the back, the younger soldier, to be like, hey, go say what you need to say. Go talk about this, which of course they're looking over at the 2 of Cups. So it's asking me, is there someone you need to speak to about how tired you are, about like equality when it comes to taking responsibility in some kind of relational dynamic. Someone very close to you, perhaps, who you feel sort of responsible for, or you feel like you have to take care of them, or vice versa. Maybe there's someone in your life that's really taking care of you all the time. But I wonder what stage of development the deer is coming to you as, or is it just like any kind of deer visiting you? Is it a young deer? Is it an antlered deer? That I know when the deer was coming to me, that was a very significant detail, was the kind of deer and the antlers and that representing the stage of development that the deer is in. And it very much mirrored the stage I was in. So, is it the stately stoic buck that's coming to you? Is it the young deer? Is it all of the above? I'm curious. And I hope this is resonating for you, dear caller, because it feels pretty specific in terms of this nudge to kind of go ahead and do the adult thing and have a conversation about perhaps a dynamic that is not equally yoked in terms of responsibility that is being taken. I want to see if the Illuminated Earth Oracle has one more offering for us when it comes to that. Resistance showed up, which is another Saturnian idea. This sense of like that card showed. Maybe I should just, let's just take it, right? I just sort of trucked right over it. It's two huge cliffs, big masses of earth pressing up against one another and creating a resistance. Like neither is able to really move with all of this earth. And what we're seeing in the card, the resistance card, are the layers and layers and layers of earth that have formed over many, many, many millennia, and they are all just sort of now pressing against each other. And it kind of looks like there's flowing lava underneath, this fire that is pointing upwards, that may be the catalyst to sort of break through all of that earth. So I'm wondering about earth energy in your chart. I'm wondering, oh my gosh, and at the bottom of the deck, just like sitting here facing me, is dreams. And it has the outline of an antlered deer mystically sort of looking over the forest. Gorgeous. I knew we needed to use this deck for this question. Is the deer coming to you in dreams? I wonder. Where is the resistance, especially when it comes to Two of Cups type things, like close, intimate relationships or intimacy in general? And in what ways in those dynamics does responsibility and caretaking and like maturity dynamics come into play? Because we're not necessarily seeing an older person taking care of a younger being. They could be the same age, but this one is assuming the role of the antlered deer in the situation. And there does seem to be a little bit of resistance here. This person just continues to take on more and more and more, maybe responsibility, and they seem to be looking at the dynamic, and if you look at the look on their face, they look exhausted. So they're not super pleased by it, but they also perhaps are a bit resistant to say anything about it. And so perhaps the King of Swords has a bit of a nudge for this person to say something. I'm wondering too, this red lava energy that is brewing underneath the resistance card is talking to me a little bit about Mars. And Mars has been a huge astrological player recently when it had a conjunction with Uranus in Taurus square to Saturn, and is conjuncting the nodes, and Mars is squared Saturn very recently in Aquarius. Okay, we're talking about Aquarius energy here. So Mars is doing stuff, is brewing, and is about to enter Gemini at the end of August. So we're already sort of anticipating Mars's ingress into Gemini. So I'm asking you, in your birth chart, what is Mars doing for you in Taurus? I mean, we have all of this resistant earth with Mars underneath, which absolutely could be a Mars and Taurus energy, square to Saturn in Aquarius, that sense of assuming the role of responsibility. What houses are these in your birth chart? Taurus, Aquarius, and also looking forward into Gemini. What planetary placements are there? What is Mars and Saturn? What are they activating in your chart? What areas, what sections, what planets? Because this seems to be speaking to something quite specific. Okay. I hope this was helpful for you, dear caller. I would love an update if you ever felt like giving one on the visitations you're getting from the deer, and if it ever ends up clarifying for you. Thanks for calling. Next.
What is this conflict I'm experiencing with a close friend inviting me into, and how can I best move forward?
Okay, hello caller. Someone is experiencing a conflict with a close friend. That sucks. All right, and what is that inviting you into? How can you move forward? Ooh, super stressful, 9 of Swords. This card shows a person with their hands over their face. They're hunched, sort of head into hands with a bunch of swords over top of their heads. So it's a card of fear, worries, anxiety, stress, like really having some mental conflict over this, emotional conflict. Maybe it's keeping you up at night. Just, okay, it's concerning for you. I hear you. Of course it is. You're calling into a podcast to get read for it. So let's see what's this about. This conflict with your friend. Emperor, in what ways is this about control? Like, is there a little bit of a power struggle happening here? Like, authority? Like, okay, let's just keep pulling. That could also be Mars, also indicating Mars. Is somebody in Aries also? Ooh. Judgment. Whoa. Okay. A real reckoning is possible here. With a bit of an awakening attached to it. You know, the Judgment card for me, there's mythology around the card of like Judgment Day. In the card, we are looking at a person, maybe an angel, blowing the trumpet, and biblically it's sort of like Judgment Day energy. The trumpet sounds and the spirits of the dead are raised from their grave and taken up to be, accounted for. Okay, so interesting. We have power struggles and accountability coming in this reading so far. So this could be quite a reckoning for somebody, quite a moment of accountability, being accountable for something, someone having to be accountable for some strong actions being taken, because I'm looking at the Emperor, and that Aries energy can sometimes take very strong action. Interesting too that they're both major arcanas, so no wonder the Nine of Swords is here and you're having a lot of stress about this, because to me the major arcanas indicate something that this is bigger maybe than just this particular conflict. It could indicate a larger energy at play in your life, or sort of larger archetypes that are working through this particular situation with your friend. Maybe something to think about there. And I knew it was going to be another major. It's the Chariot. So we're talking about moving to the next level of your life, like moving. At least that's how Lindsay Mack is a tarot teacher. She does tarot for the wild soul. That's how I first heard of that particular card interpretation, that the Chariot is the vehicle that takes you to the next level of your life. And so it's sort of confirming for me this sensation that whatever is playing out in the power dynamics and issues with accountability that are happening between you and your friend are indicative of a larger, maybe like leap in maturity that you are making, or like life move that you are making right now, consciously or unconsciously. It's like this conflict could be a catalyst that's sort of up-leveling you in terms of maybe your relationships, or maybe power dynamics that have historically played out in your life. And maybe issues with accountability have been ongoing in your dynamics and in your relationships. And the Chariot is like ready to get victory over this and move forward. So you did ask me, what is the invitation here for you? There is a strong invitation towards acknowledging power dynamics at play in the situation, asking for accountability and taking accountability where that needs to be accounted for. Like, what is the reckoning that could happen here that would move you forward? So let's maybe just ask that more specifically. What's the action that would move this conflict forward? Ace of Wands. Wow. There's a lot of fire here. The Emperor is a fiery card. I'm looking at the flowers that the Emperor is holding, and it seems to be the same flower in the Ace of Wands card. Okay, so for those of you not watching the video version, if you're just listening to this, we have an Emperor who is, cloaked in a robe. They have red around their head, and they're holding a staff, and they're sitting on the throne, a very powerful, you know, front facing you directly, a little aggressive, but like holding a ton of power in their body. And there's a bunch of these like beautiful blooming flowers right in front of them. And then the Ace of Wands is coming out as one of those beautiful blooming flowers that's beginning to unfold. Typically the Ace of Wands is like a flash in the pan. Like, you want to talk about Mars energy. It is something that initiates. It's something that comes in and sort of lights a match in a situation, or is like a catalyst for a situation, because it is the Ace of Fire. It's the beginning of fire, which would be a catalyst. I just feel like I need a little more on this. Knight of Pentacles, okay. There's a tension here between wanting to blow things up and get the reckoning that needs to happen quickly. And then the Knight of Pentacles comes out, which we see an armored knight. Looks like perhaps they're on horseback, but we can't exactly see that, with a big pentacle on their shoulder. And typically the Knight of Pentacles is a slower, practical, strategizing energy. So you've got a strong Marsian presence in this reading that is fire, that wants to just blow this conflict right up, that wants to go in there and say, listen, this is the, you know, like go in there and like take the reins a little bit, take control. This is what's going on, and this needs to be accountable for this, right? Like Judgment Day type, sounding the trumpets. Let's have a conversation. Let's have this out, and accountability needs to be taken so that we can all move forward. And maybe that is a catalyst that needs to happen in order to move forward as, you know, Chariot moving forward as the Knight of Pentacles in a slower, more grounded, practical, strategic way. Six of Cups on the bottom of the deck. I'm wondering if this is like a long-term, like a long friend. You've known each other a long time, or it feels like you've known each other a long time, like since childhood or something like that. Yeah, this is super stressful, but it does, yeah, I've split the deck to the Four of Pentacles, so it tells me it could be a very foundational, a sense that this is a foundational relationship for you, and so you don't want to lose your head. You do want to sort of maintain a practical, calm approach, but there is a reckoning right at the center of this reading where somebody, everybody maybe in the situation needs to be accountable so that things can move forward. Another reading, interestingly, that indicates taking responsibility. This time it feels to me very much like taking responsibility for some specific actions, or for like a specific power dynamic or way of behaving, or attitude that has been experienced or that has been happening. Okay. Thanks for asking. Good luck. If you ever want to send a follow-up, let me know how it goes. Okay. Next.
Hello, my dear sweet Amanda. I have a question for you for the card. So the last maybe 2 weeks, I have been having really intense dreams and then waking really early in the morning, 5:30, and my brain is just all over the place. The best way that I can describe it is that it feels fragmented. It feels like my living life and my internal life are really far away from each other. And a lot of it feels thrown around embodiment. Like, I feel really disconnected from my body, even though I'm, trying to be active in it and do the things that we need to do to stay in our bodies. But so much so that I've been having dreams of, like, I don't want to be graphic, but say shearing pieces of flesh off. It feels like this shedding moment. And I don't really know what to do to assimilate that feeling. I've been trying to get really into my small self and feel it, but life.
All right, there's a time limit on our voice recordings, my friends. It's 90 seconds, so cut you off at a minute 30, minute 29. Okay, I have so many thoughts about this. First of all, when you say you're waking up at 5:30 in the morning, which implies that that's a little unusual for you to be just like waking up that early, it makes me think about like the Chinese medicine clock for like natural rhythms and their association with organs in the body, and the hours of, I think, between 5 and 7 a.m. or something like that is assigned to the large intestine. And the sensibility of the large intestine is to do exactly what you just said, like assimilate nutrients, and also what you said, shed what is waste. And the idea is that if you wake up at 5:30 in the morning, say, or 5 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in that large intestine time frame, it is an indicator that your body is wanting to expel, wanting to release, wanting to do the large intestinal functions, which is releasing, letting go, shedding, as part of the digestive and assimilation process. So that is fascinating to me. And then as you were asking that question and we're shuffling, the 8 of Cups came up, which shows 8 beautifully stacked cups sitting on a beach, and a person with their head hung low, heavy-hearted, walking away from those cups. And there's a strong lunar presence. The moon is shining at the top of the card, and this person is walking away from some strong emotional investments. 8 of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck, wondering if this has anything to do with work, but we'll keep that to the side for now. The 8 of Pentacles shows a person hard at work. They're like a crafts person, maybe a carpenter. They have a hammer and nails. They are, there's a bunch of pentacles that it looks like they've hammered into place on the wall behind them. Okay. So let's try to understand these dreams for our caller here. What are you shedding? 8 of Cups, walking away from an emotional investment, or walking away from a particular emotional state or emotional energy that has collected over time, maybe because of work. Walking away from that could be part of that large intestine purge, that sense of shedding that we're talking about. All right, but let's get some, whoa, way too many cards. Let's get some details here. Why these body horror dreams? You know, like okay, well, now we have 3 of Pentacles, so this really could have to do with work, who you are working with and how you've been working. The 3 of Pentacles and the 8 of Pentacles, these 2 cards, really talk to me about the act of working, like the day-to-day experience of actually like hammering in the nails, doing the tasks, ticking things off of your list. Like, how do you accomplish the work that you're accomplishing, and with whom are you accomplishing that work? That's the 3 of Pentacles. We're seeing someone also at work, Looks like they are painting or hammering or stripping something off of a wall in a beautiful cathedral. So what are you working on? Who are you working on it with, or with whom are you working on it? Whatever. How are you working? What, how, and with whom? And then we have Six of Cups and the Magician. Again, like a card showing a relational, maybe a platonic relational dynamic, maybe kids, maybe childhood. It's like as soon as I said relational dynamic, it's like it corrected to kids, and then it was like, nope, childhood. Okay, so if the Six of Cups is indicating childhood, the Eight of Cups could be walking away from stuff that not only has been accumulated in childhood or maybe accumulated with your children, but like something cumulative in, or something that also expresses through your work life and the dynamics, relationships that you have with your work. The Magician is here. The Magician looks at a table with all four elements of the tarot: the sword, the cup, the staff, and the pentacle. They have all of the resources at their disposal and they are ready to create. And there's the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups is a person with she's got a crown on her head. There's like lightning bolts streaming up to her crown. And there's a huge chalice in front of her with a rose on its stem. And it really is talking to me of your emotions and your intuition are trying to talk to you through these dreams. About some sort of accumulated over time emotional saturation that you may be subconsciously ready to shed, and somehow that changes your work life or is related to changes in your work experience and your experience of working, labor specifically. I feel like there's something that can clinch this, and so I'm gonna reach for, oh wow, bottom of the deck. I just reached for the postcards from the Liminal space deck, and at the bottom is an image of an anatomical human heart with flowers growing all out of it, and it says protect your ecosystem. And then on the split, I've got the software update, which is a hand holding a computer, and a card that shows a TV with like an old-fashioned television with antenna and lightning bolts coming into it, and it says not normal. On the TV, it says breaking news. So that card is breaking news, not normal. And then we have software updates. So there is something, and then yes, underneath of that, as if we needed confirmation. Beautiful. So there's something happening here, my friend, where your intuition, your emotions, your subconscious seems to be really trying to maybe bring you the news that something is not normal, that there is something going on maybe in your work life, or again, like some sort of emotions that have been accumulated that are somehow related to your relationship to laboring. and working that are ready for an update, because they are not as protective of your emotional, your whole ecosystem. Actually, they're not protective to the entire ecosystem. And I'm getting images of like not only your heart, not only the emotional center, but that heart pumps blood to every part of your body and is like a core piece to the entire ecosystem, including the large intestine. You know, it's like heart, large intestine, like different parts of this ecosystem that all need to be working together in order for the whole thing to function, which is why I think we're seeing seemingly separate aspects of your experience right next to each other. These like 3 cards that are super strong about work: 8 of Pentacles, 3 of Pentacles, Magician, and then 8 of Cups, 6 of Cups, Queen of Cups, this emotional or maybe even family or children or child dynamic, something like that. They are not separate. They are part of this larger ecosystem of like the people in your life, your work, your feelings, your body, all of it. And there, with this breaking news, not normal, it's like there is, I think your instincts are right, that there is something these dreams are trying to alert you to or tell you. You know, it's like they're trying to turn on the 5 o'clock news for you so that you get the news, so that you get this lightning bolt. We've got lightning bolts twice now, trying to speak through your intuition. I'm going to read what's on the computer screen in the software update card. And this is an old computer screen, by the way. It's like a, you know, it looks like one of the first computers ever made, like, or at least like the early 80s, like MacBooks or something. You know, it's a big hefty box. Actually, so is this old-fashioned television. So there's something here about an older way of working or relating to labor that has accumulated in you emotionally, and it's time to shed that now, because it's time to upgrade your software to work smarter, not harder, maybe, and to work in a way that is more protective of the whole ecosystem. Because I'm also getting that, like, there's something happening here where in the 8 of Cups, you're walking away from a bunch of cups that looked super fulfilling, but were actually empty. And in the 6 of Cups and the Queen of Cups, we have cups that are full. In the 6 of Cups, there's these 2 young people like chatting with each other, and they are surrounded by huge planters filled with flowers. And like I said earlier, the Queen of Cups also has a huge chalice with a rose. So there's and then the flowers all around the anatomical heart and protect your ecosystem. It's almost like learning about really, even like emotionally, even if you've walked away from empty cups physically, how to walk away from that emotionally so that your cup can be filled with flowers, you know, and your ecosystem can actually produce a flower garden. Yeah, now of course I'm getting like garden images of like actually feeding the soil rather than just like putting things in it and digging around in it, and the soil itself still doesn't have the nutrients to actually create satisfaction. But you're out there sweating and you're working so hard in the garden, but it's not actually going to do anything if the ecosystem itself is not protected. You know, like you need bees, you need other animals, you need flowers next to vegetables so that they can everything can be pollinated. You know, the whole ecosystem has to function. You can't just grow these vegetables in isolation and expect them to work for every single area of your life. Like it all has to be this beautiful functioning garden to get full growth. And actually, like I'm thinking about permaculture principles and how you can apply them to other areas of your life, not just gardening and growing things in the ground, but like how you can actually grow ecosystems in your life based on permaculture principles. So that might be something you want to sort of Google or check into. Because I'm thinking about how one benefit of if you follow some of the principles of permaculture, you'll end up just working smarter, not harder, because you're working with nature, not against it. You're doing things that actually just naturally occur and facilitating those natural occurrences so that you're not out there every single day pulling weeds and killing bugs and sweating. It's like maybe you don't have to do all that labor if you actually work with the natural ecosystems at place. And then my candle goes out. And so that permaculture idea, that ecosystem idea, like connecting your emotional life with your family life, with your work, and finding the flow of the natural ecosystem could be the key to the software update that helps you work smarter, not harder. You know, it's like if you update your technology, you can get some automations so that you're not doing every single frickin' task. Let me read this to you on this computer screen. It says, "This is an invitation to evolve. If declined, all of life will be experienced through the lens of your outdated software." Yes, Eight of Cups is an accumulation of an outdated work experience, actually, I want to say. But it's not, but again, it's the ecosystem, so it's not just work. It's like, in what ways is this obviously applying to the ways that you are working in your day-to-day tasks? But then how does that spill over into how you run your family, how you cook dinner, how you manage your relationships, and all of these things? Okay? All of life will be experienced through the lens of your outdated software. This may improve upon old features or add something entirely new. The software update. And that feels like the magician. That feels like, okay, the magician is coming in here with some new tools. And that makes me think of the card in this liminal space deck. A magician is only as good as his tools. Get yourself the software update that you need so that you can be part of a flourishing ecosystem where work is one part of that ecosystem, and those labor tasks that you do are only one part of the larger ecosystem, and they are a part that actually feeds and fits into the growth, rather than working just for sweat. No empty cups. You know, like I just want to look at that. Beautiful blooming flowers just bursting out of these chalices. That's what we're talking about. And in fact, as the cards are laid on my table, that is what the Eight of Cups is walking towards. The person in the Eight of Cups is walking away from the empty cups and towards the beautiful, flourishing dynamics of the Eight of Cups, or of the Six of Cups. Sweetness, innocence, play, being with your kids, you know? You know. Okay. My friends, thank you so much for calling in and asking questions at this Aquarius new moon, or full moon rather. We are at the peak of the moon cycle. We have already experienced the Leo new moon. Here's the corresponding full moon. And in 2 weeks, we will record another episode of the Get Read podcast for the Virgo new moon. Very excited for Virgo season. So looking towards that. If you would like to ask a question of the cards and get read, just go to www.unseenhandstarot.com. There's a little widget on the side. You click the microphone, you record your question, you click submit. That's it. And I would love to read for you for that Virgo new moon. All right, y'all. Happy full moon. We'll talk soon.